My name is Kim Martin. I am one of the members here at Sidebar. Been a member now for well over about a year and a half now. And Sidebar is a invitation and referral-led leadership community. We have a lot of different founders, solopreneurs, product executives, CTOs, COOs. We have everybody from around the tech and various different tech industries that have joined us. And we are built on the foundation and the values of generosity, accountability, and growth. And Sidebar is on a mission to unleash the full potential of everybody. And as a member, I can tell you that my personal experience has been incredibly rewarding and enriching. I built a series of friendships and relationships with individuals in my peer circle, my peer groups that have enabled me to get very clear on my career goals and my path, in addition to building relationships that give me really honest and candid feedback in areas of professional skills and development, and also in my personal life as well, that I've been able to use in order to grow and become a better person. I am excited to introduce Whitney Kahn today from Calica. And Whitney is a senior client director at Calica, which is a tailored recruitment solutions firm offering recruitment, retention, executive search, and also end-to-end recruitment management and global expansion services. Whitney has spent, prior to Calica, she spent 15 years with the Chapel Hill Carborough YMCA, leading their youth and teen programs, where she developed a deep foundation in leadership, community engagement, and people's development. She is a three-time President's Club winner and a proud UNC Chapel Hill graduate as well. Yes, and though that, from what I understand, Whitney, there's some internal family debate or challenge around that, but that's okay.
Certainly.
Currently for Calica, Whitney focuses on business development, account management, and also helping growth-minded organizations build stronger hiring strategies across the full hiring lifecycle, from role clarity, workforce planning, and process design to recruiting strategies, hiring execution, and post-hire alignment. Outside of all the work she does, Whitney is the proud mom of Jordan, her almost 3-year-old daughter, who she welcomed through IVF as a single mother by choice and intention. She's also the proud dog mom of Sophie, who you could probably see behind her, her 8-year-old golden retriever, who often acts as the second parent in the house, and who, if you ask nicely, might be your ASMR noise or ASMR video to go to sleep to, right? The snoring. So, Whitney,
Yes.
let us know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, nothing else except for my now almost 3-year-old turned 3 last week. So I need to update that bio for sure. But thank you all for having me and being a part of today's conversation. Do want it to be a conversation, and so please feel free to come off mute or come on video at any point in time, break up, like, wait, I have a question or I have a specific scenario that I'd like to talk through. That's what this is all about. I am going to share a toolkit in the chat right now. Not meant to be gone through all through this conversation. Certainly something to take and work through on your own time. We will go over portions of it today and have some time to talk through some of the scenarios in that to help you all. Sound good? And if I have to resend it, Kim might be able to help me do that. So I'm gonna get out of that. And so I'm gonna share my screen. Before I do that, I'm gonna make sure that the presentation is up, which is always a challenge. Make everything coexist at the same time. Nope. Okay. So now I can share my screen. I apologize. Let me see things. There we go.
Great. We can start seeing it.
Swap that. Awesome. So today's conversation is all about the repositioning of executives and understanding the value of what you bring to the table for whatever comes next. Not everybody is necessarily in transition in this conversation, but we've all been either in this position or will possibly be in it one day. And so it's always great to understand what your value is going into your next role. Okay. So whether you're changing industries or changing positions within the same industry, there is value in understanding how to translate some of the things that you have done into what they need to understand in order to bring value. So obviously you see the woman wearing all these different hats because oftentimes we do wear a ton of different hats in the roles that we do and in our career path. And so, if I put on my Carolina hat, and my cheerleader hat that I go through, I want to make sure that we are understanding of why different pivots happen. Oftentimes, we are understanding that today, especially, is probably one of the most challenging markets that we've seen in 30 plus years. So, just understanding that there is a competitive market out there, hundreds of applications with the advent of AI, especially, you've got people that are applying using AI doing some of the filters to filter people out. And so how are you going to get noticed? How are you going to get understanding of um, being able to kind of break through the noise, break through the low response rates, have a competitive advantage when you go through things. So one thing I always like to understand, help people understand, is that when working with recruiting firms, take this off because you can't see my face, but when you're working with recruiting firms out there and recruiters in general, you've got about 7 to 10 seconds to make an impression. And people are like, oh, well, it's because AI is filtering, people out. Well, in reality, it's not just about those keywords, but it's what is going to stand out on your resume, stand out on your LinkedIn, stand out even in a conversation that you're having. And so how to pitch your value in a short period of time is extremely, extremely important. So, one of the stats out there that is a value is that global engagement fell 21% in 2024, US engagement 31%. And so the engagement is an issue. Only about 21% of employees are engaged in their jobs currently. So even though people are employed, they aren't necessarily happy where they are. And whether it's not happy or not fulfilling the career goals that they have and doing everything that they have. So there is an issue out there with engagement, but there's also an issue of matching people to the right jobs. So we're going to talk about two different career pivots right here today. One is role change within the same industry, and then industry change within the same role. So you've got an understanding that if you have been a VP of operations and you want to become a COO and you're in technology, then you need to figure out how to position yourself, whether it's amongst a PE-backed company or understanding the language that's going on within your industry currently, but to position yourself for a higher level role. And then the industry change, it's understanding that the language changes drastically when you change industries. You might be doing the same exact role, especially when it comes to like finance, for instance. Everybody has financial roles in their organizations, but the language becomes very different. Or a large organization versus a small organization, titles drastically change throughout the organization. So you've got to be aware that you've got to be talking their language in order to get noticed. So that's really just an understanding. In terms of understanding how things transfer, your goal is with a resume specifically is to understand how your skills and value that you have brought to your current company or previous company translates into being value to the next company. And so the biggest thing that I like to talk to people about is understanding how to draw the line to where they need to understand it. We can't make assumptions like, oh yeah, they know what a VP of technology does. And in my kind of company, even if they don't know the company name, they know exactly what I've done. Well, they don't necessarily. And so you've got to make sure that you're putting on, in a sense, a recruiter hat. How would this look to somebody else that doesn't know me, doesn't know my company, doesn't know my value? And how can I prove this across the world? So in that toolkit that I brought, that I sent over to you guys, there is a from to proof line. The biggest complaint that I have with people's resumes, and I understand that people are not professional resume writers, not expecting you to be. That's what I'm here for, to help you do that. But if you can't connect the dots and explain it in a succinct way, what you do and what value you bring, um, and instead you're just listing, hey, I am, you know, a technologist and I am able to, I know all these skills, and you list them at the top of your resume, which many, many people do, you're oftentimes losing out on that interview, honestly, if you can't translate and draw that line for them. And so my thought process always comes back to, okay, great, you can list these 10 skills. I can list the same 10 skills. What proves that you are better at it than me? And so putting specific, clear, data-driven information into your resume or into your conversations that you have, into your LinkedIn posts, whatever it might be, then you can get confidence in that you can bring value to that company. Does that make sense? So I want to take a few minutes and, there is some examples here for this transferable skills map, but are there any people out there that are thinking about making a pivot, whether it's a current role or changing of an industry, that might be able to get off mute and say, hey, listen, I'd like to transfer from this to this, and we can talk through how you might be able to prove your value to a um, different area. Nope. No one? Okay.
Yeah, I can
I
talk a
can
little bit. Oh,
so
sorry.
Either one.
oh yeah so I was a VP of engineering at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and I was
Mhm.
heading large organizations delivering systems infrastructure products, operating systems, all that. So now to kind of I want to move away from working for corporations to consulting, because I've led so many transformations. I want to consult in AI transformation. It's
Mhm.
exciting, and I want to take the skills that I've built over 3 decades doing these in large engineering organizations at scale to other companies who are struggling with AI transformation. So,
Mhm.
what does that pivot look like? And I've never done business development or so ever before, never took on any kind of salesy activities at all, right?
Mhm.
So, from being in engineering to be able to talk about that to translate to a consultant kind of a role, that's an interesting pivot that I'm considering or I'm planning now. Yeah.
No, that's a wonderful example. And you're still working probably in the consulting world with some of the same type of industry. And so you're not changing industries, you're changing the type of role and the way that you're approaching it. And so one of the biggest challenges that comes with an example like yours, where you've been at Hewlett Packard and you've been in a VP role, to execute the hands-on capabilities you have to make that change is
Mm-hmm.
often the biggest hurdle to climb over, because somebody sees a higher up individual within a large organization and they immediately think, oh, they just did a small piece of this puzzle.
Mm.
And I need somebody that has the breadth of knowledge to be able to make an impact on the whole organization or the whole AI transformation. And so you want to be able to pull out specific, clear proof points that really speak to what you have done, not your team, but what you have done to impact the results that you put down. And so, being someone, saying things like, oh, in here, this example is technology leadership, AI readiness, digital transformation is what you want to do. And that's
Mm.
similar to where
Yeah,
you've been.
actually, right.
So you've led, cloud modernization. Well, how does that
Yes.
relate to doing an AI transformation
Hmm.
within a
Hmm.
company? So you have to find that connection and
Yep.
spell it out.
Yeah.
I led this in, and it was done in this period of time. It was done, it saved this amount of money. It involved this many people. And I led the transformation by doing this, this, and this. And so
Mm.
having some specific proof points that really set you apart from somebody else that's doing the same thing. Because right now, everybody's coming from somewhere else to do
Yep.
AI, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's not like you're competing against a ton of people that have been doing AI,
Yeah.
you know,
It's,
stuff
yeah.
for 25 years.
Got it.
Um, so
So
you've got to be doing that.
I've done all three rows of it and at scale, and it's not just a piece of it across the board, right? So,
Mhm.
but it's very hard to map it and to talk about yourself. That's so hard to do.
That's
Yeah,
probably
but
the toughest thing when you're trying to
mhm.
find a job is that you have, whether it's a resume or on LinkedIn, you've got to be comfortable boasting yourself. Just it's the hardest part, especially for technology folks, because they're the ones that are often behind the scenes and they're not salespeople,
Yep,
and they want to be seen as someone who has results and like their product is
yep,
the result,
mhm.
that they are proving, their worth, right?
Yeah,
But you've got to be able to spell that out to people that aren't in it and don't
yeah,
understand it in your same way. And so, for AI transformation consulting, you might be speaking to a different person. And so
mhm,
utilize the AI that you are using to
mhm.
almost prove how you can translate those skills. And so
Yeah,
utilize AI to say, hey, listen, Claude or ChatGPT, whatever, LLM you use, and say, hey, listen, how can I translate some of this technology leadership that you've had? Here are some examples.
mm,
Give me some proof points that I can utilize as a AI consultant coming into a company that is
right.
this specific size. Or, you want to get as specific as you can in your prompt to
Hmm.
make sure that you're going into um, that translation conversation or translation on your resume, with points that make sense to that audience. And so everybody sits there and says, oh, I have to taper my resume towards the job, right?
Mm,
We talk about that all the time. I think I get it, but I also think it's a lot of work. So, so you don't want to have to change everything about your resume, and what you've done is what you've done.
yep,
But that translation piece, this transferable skills map, really kind of helps you to do that. And I'll
yeah,
advance to this next slide because um, it is all about understanding how to present that on a resume. And so I call it a key accomplishments section. I call it and Manju, is it Manju? Is that how you say your name?
yeah. It's Manju. Yeah,
Manju. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
yep,
Um, Sometimes the confusion comes from, okay, I've got to taper my resume towards it. I've got to include all the keywords. I've got to, all these things are coming at you from all different angles to get through the AI, ATS systems and, people just looking for keywords. But then once you get in front of them, how do you sift through the fact that there are thousands of resumes coming in for some of these jobs? And how are you going to set yourself apart? So I like to have a key accomplishments section, and this is probably the only section that needs to be changed because you can draw that connection in the top third of your page. So when I was looking for a job about 10, 11 years ago, I talked to somebody and they said, have you ever heard of the thumb rule? And I think there's some folks that have been in the workforce as long as I have and understand that when you used to print out your resume on nice, pretty paper and hand it into when you walked into a interview or a place of employment. And when you pick up your resume, this is called the thumb rule. And so when you pick up your piece of paper, normally you pick it up on the top third of the page. And so now everything is digital. And so it's, the 10-second rule, the thumb rule, whatever you want to call it. But what it is that you have until somebody reaches their thumb to make an impact. That's it. I'm not saying the rest of your resume doesn't matter, but the top of that resume, that top third of the page, is what will get you the interview, or at least a conversation, or being put in the top pile. So you've got that amount of time to prove. And the amount of people that put things like their education up on top, or they just list the skills that they have, is wasting that top third of the page to really, communicate that they have the ability to get their attention. And so this key accomplishments section is probably the only section you need to change on a daily, every time you talk to somebody new. I see that there's some raised hands, so I'll get to you in a second. But when you do that proof points that you have created for each of your skill sets or whatever, you can put it into a key accomplishments section at the top of your resume underneath an impact statement, a small introductory statement that really says, okay, rather than saying I have operational efficiency skill sets, or I have AI implementation experience. Okay, sure, great. What's the proof behind it? So I'm going to put in specific things that really call out what this company is looking for. And so this key accomplishments section is something that you can then use their language. You can make sure that you are understanding what they're looking for. So if they're, in technology, if they want somebody that has led development teams, they want a leader, not that's hands-on, and they want someone who has experience with AI. I'm just calling out three things. Those are the three things that are your three bullets up at the top. And you put it in, if they say we want somebody who's led this, don't say that you've managed it. Use the word led. And so some of those simple things that really get you through the ATS system, but also the human system, it speaks to that language that they're using within their company, is a real way to get understanding of who they are. The fact is that about 46% of people that enter into a job are unhappy with the move that they made. And even more than that, to account for about 75% of people are not deemed as successful after 18 months after being hired, whether it's on the candidate side or the client side. And so that's a scary fact that, we need to raise up. And so by proving who you are going into an interview, going into an application, you're kind of letting them know what the success could look like based on what you've done before. So that's the proof that you're bringing. So let's pause for a second, answer some of the questions that are coming on. Maybe Malavika?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Oh.
Thanks, Whitney. First and foremost, this is great and great informational session and very specific, which thank you for doing that. It's not generalized. So my question is, I recently did a pretty big pivot from an industry perspective. And one of the things that, I'm having a hard time articulating is I've been in tech and now I have done a complete pivot, but leading technology and AI and operations in a non-tech field, but so much of it is technology driven. So I went from the Apples and the Palo Alto Networks, all that world into, kind of starting a company with a partner that's in the fitness and wellness area, but very technology focused. How do you recommend translating that in the key accomplishments? Because a lot of this is still valid, but I think showing the breadth and just the technology, just being able to be flexible with technology and also industry, how would you articulate something like that? Because that's where I'm seeing a challenge, not just personally, but also my colleagues that have made the same pivot.
Right. So I think again, repeat this, but speaking their language on their terms, putting a bunch of technical jargon into key accomplishments, it means nothing to them. They're like, okay, great. That's a lot of words. I don't get half those words. But it's saying, when people put together job descriptions, which is another problem in the industry, but we won't go there today. But that when they put together a job description, they're trying to find the perfect candidate, right? And so they're going to insert words and phrases and desires and the responsibilities and requirements sections and all this stuff that can give you a huge understanding of how they function as an organization. And so by utilizing things like your LLMs to say, okay, I need to reframe my key accomplishment section to articulate it in a way that was understandable by a company like this.
So keep it industry agnostic is what you're saying, but
well,
really
not
just
even industry agnostic. I would say even more industry specific towards what you are going for. And so not having a general resume that you're sifting out to everybody, have one for a technology interest, company. Okay, this is the base one for all technology companies that I might be going for because it's speaking their language. Okay, this is maybe fitness, if it's a fitness industry people. Okay, how do they speak about things? What's important to them? Is a real way to they're like, oh, they understand what I'm looking for. I'm not just looking for a technology person. I'm looking for someone that understands how technology and fitness
and translates into that industry. Got it.
Exactly.
Great. So, very helpful. Thanks, Whitney.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kumar, do you still have a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I think I noticed that in your after, you mentioned repositioning or transitioning. Isn't that a quick kind of a red flag? That means you don't have industry experience. It can be easily filtered out by the AI, right? Those two words, especially repositioning or transitioning.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, it's the toughest part of a pivot is understanding that unfortunately, if you're pivoting into a new industry or new type of role that already has a ton of people in it, the deck is somewhat stacked against you. And so I'm not trying to hide that in any way. It's not the easiest. And that's when I usually take a step back and say the best way to pivot into an industry that you aren't familiar with is more so in the later, later in this conversation, but more on the ends of you've got to get personal connections. You've got to have the conversations, and then the resume becomes a supporting documentation versus the entry into the conversation. Because you're not going to get the conversations with the people that, competing against the people that have already been doing it for many years. I think the AI example is one that it is different because of the fact that it's new for everybody and there's not 30 years of experience necessarily. There's some, I know that AI has been around for longer than what we've been using it for, but for the most part, there's not as much competition and everybody's coming from the same place of somewhere different. But I felt that exact thing. So yes, I spent 15 years in a nonprofit organization and I'm coming out and I was blown away by the fact that no one wanted to talk to me. I'm like, I have all this leadership experience. I have the capability of running programs, developing budgets, hiring people, all these things that I had experience with, and no one wanted to talk to me because I wasn't speaking their language. And I wasn't proving that what I did has value to the other organization. And so if you're going to create a resume that has some of these key accomplishments and you are transitioning only into like a new industry, just start using their language to describe what you have done. And that connects the dots and helps with that a little bit. But I'm not going to say it's easy. So does that answer your question?
I think so. I'm more worried about AI, even without giving you a chance to talk to someone, right? It can easily filter out. These are just keywords, right?
Yep. Nope. Absolutely. And that kind of goes into this part of the conversation is that like use AI to help you. It is my biggest recommendation on it. Everybody else is doing it kind of thing. I was in a networking event that was presenting all on AI in our local environment in North Carolina. And this woman that was on the panel got up there and was like, it's really unfair. My son was going in for a deli position at the local grocery store, brought in their resume, got an interview, and then ended up that his best friend also applied, but they gave him the job over my son. And everybody's like, why? He goes, because that guy did his resume through AI and my son did not. And so, people are catching on to the fact that everybody is now using AI for their resumes and communication and all these things. And so we almost have to just own that that's what's happening and figuring out how to utilize the things that ATSs or applicant tracking systems or AI is filtering out for. So play the game, but also go beyond that and say, okay, I'm playing the game. I'm including the keywords I need to. I'm including the language that I need to, but I'm also showing the proof and setting out, hey, you're looking for this. I'm going to almost basically restate that with a proof point behind it that says, hey, listen, I've got this, I do have this experience and this proves it. I, raised the revenue by this percentage. I cut costs by this dollar amount. I did this, and this. That proves that I can do this in a different environment. And so you're kind of bringing that proof points on. But having, a hook, having 5 to 7 keywords that you're taking from that job description, having those 3 to 4 achievements within there, you're making sure that every word is being used in a dual format for the person and the machine that is going to be looking at your resume. That makes sense? And years ago when I would do talks on resumes and ATS systems and all that stuff before even AI was common use, I would recommend there's this program called jobscan.co. I don't even know if it's around anymore, but it was a system where you could go in and plug in a job description, plug in your resume, and it would show how much of a match it is. And little knowledge for those that don't know, Women tend to apply for jobs only if they are about a 90% match. Men apply for jobs they only need to be about a 50% match, which shows you a little bit about our industries and how women and men look at jobs differently. But this tool was helping people to understand how can they align the job description to their resume, not repeating the words, but including their language and making it translatable. And so I appreciated that. But now AI can do a lot of that stuff for you as well. So plug in the job description, plug in your resume. If you plug in your resume to an LLM, please redact your contact information on there so that you do not tell everybody what your phone number and email and name are. So that is recommended piece of information as well. So this is an example of, and I'm realizing this isn't the most clear, but so up here is kind of this is somebody's resume that I kind of changed a little bit, but basically he is a senior IT leader within an organization. And, this section up here, it's almost even too long, but oftentimes I coach people to say, listen, let's cut down the amount of fluff that we're putting up at the top of our resume, because this could be about 500,000 people that could say this exact, summary. So cutting it down to a line or 2 lines, maybe 3, to really generalize who you are and where you want to go, and make all of the focus around this key accomplishment section. I usually suggest 3 to 4, but making it so that these are the exact words that are being pulled out of the job description that you're using. And if a different company is looking for, is not looking for an M&A integration leader, don't put it on there. Don't just include it because it's the same thing that you've always included. Pull out another key accomplishment. Make sure that you're not pulling things and repeating tons of things within your resume and just putting them up top. Make it different. Make it so that they read this up here and say, ooh, I want to see where they did that. Ooh, I want to make sure that I understand how they've developed that into something different, or what their position looked like that went along with that. Many people that I have coached through this, I have seen this work for them almost immediately. I've been told on many occasions that they've gotten more interviews. They've gotten into interviews, and one person said, my interviewer commented on my resume saying, wow, I called you because of this section right here. I didn't even read the rest of the resume. And I'm like, that's the whole point. The point of a resume is to get a call and say, let's set up an interview. The rest you can prove in an interview, right? So this is just supposed to open the conversation. And with the days of cover letters kind of going away, because it kind of has, not as many people read them or even ask for them, or if they ask for them, they don't make it to the hiring manager. But making sure that you're saying, okay, how can I get their attention using their language by having this section here? Make sense? Yes, Kim.
Question. So a lot of organizations are still in the application asking for a cover letter. What is your thought on not including it?
It just depends. The fact is that the scary fact is that only about 50% of jobs are actually even posted out there, right? And of the 50% that are posted, only 50% of those are even real jobs. And then that last 50%, only about 10% of those are ones that they're going to field. Sometimes they post it because they have to and they already have an internal candidate. Sometimes they're posting it, whatever. So I hear you on that they're asking for it still. Some organizations do. I would say keeping it short and sweet is probably the biggest recommendation that I have if you include a cover letter. But making sure that you're showing something that's not on your resume. Using the cover letter as an opportunity to show people what they can't see from their LinkedIn or from their resume. Making it more personality, soft skills that you're bringing out within your work style and whatnot. So speaking to that, also making sure that you are reviewing your cover letters, because I've read many cover letters that don't even address my name. They address somebody from a different organization, or they write, "Thank you for taking my application for this job at this organization." I'm like, yeah, that's not my organization, so you are not getting considered. And so a cover letter can help, but it can hurt more if you don't review it, if you will.
So are you saying send it if it's asked for? But
I mean, if it's required, certainly you've got to send it. If it's a option, because a lot of the HRS systems out there, ATS systems out there, they have a field for it, but not required. I would say more on the side of, if you don't want to do a cover letter, make sure that you're writing something to the hiring manager or the recruiter at the company, or whatever it might be, somebody in person, kind of expressing your interest in the role beyond just putting a resume in. Make sense? So how does this translate beyond your resume? So oftentimes we sit there and say, okay, I've got my resume. Great. Awesome. Now what do? Do I just go and apply to all these things? Well, all those specific percentages and numbers that I said, only about 10% of jobs are gotten through applying blindly online. 90% of jobs are gotten through people you know. And so the idea of blind applying becomes, in a sense, sometimes a waste of time. And that's harsh, I know, but because sometimes you got to do something, and I get it. I did that too. But my recommendation always is to kind of make sure that you're creating the persona in every area. So whether it's your resume, and then now I'm talking about LinkedIn and the pivot on there. LinkedIn, biggest social professional network out there, has a real way of making it so that you can translate that in various different ways. And so making sure that before you are starting to make a pivot, that you're reflecting it in every area, not just on your resume, but okay, your headline. Instead of saying you're a VP of technology, you are an AI consultant. That's the direction you want to go. So make that the persona that you're moving forward with. Because that's how you want to be seen, right? Your about section. Start with your why. Make it personable. Don't make it just a repeat of your resume. Do not, but it's good to include some of the specific proof points, maybe worded differently than what you put on your resume, but also make it easy to contact you. If you are looking to, whether it's making a pivot or just looking for a job, period, people cannot see your contact info if they are not connected to you. So make it easy for people to find you. Say, always looking to network, or looking for a job. Here's my email, so that we can make sure that there's an opportunity to contact you as easily as possible. If you are in an industry that has portfolios, have that listed in your feature section. Strategic engagement. So have a plan to engage with other people in the industry that you want to be going into, whether it's industry or role, that you want to go into consistently on LinkedIn. And so the power of LinkedIn is multiplied. The algorithm is made to be such that interacting with other people will increase the traffic to your page. So if you've cleaned up your page to make it the persona that you want to reflect, everybody's like, oh, I have to do all these posts. And actually, more powerful than you doing a post is you commenting and bringing conversation to somebody else's post, because you're now reaching all of your contacts as well as their contacts. And you can really start a good conversation. So Manju that wants to be an AI consultant can go and start following or commenting on people's posts that are associated with AI consulting or AI transformation, whatever the area of topic is. And don't just like a post, make sure that you're engaging and saying, hey, listen, have you ever thought about going at it from this angle? Have you ever thought about changing this first before going down this route? Making it sure that they are understanding what you bring to the table when it comes to making that pivot. So you almost insert yourself into that environment. Okay. Here's kind of another quick example of like, okay, you can have case studies, you can have featured section, you can have before and after demonstrations, all on your LinkedIn throughout your page. But the biggest thing is you want to drive traffic towards you, because again, it's, once you start following people on LinkedIn and they start following you, they're gonna start to strike up conversations. It's, hey, Manju goes to somebody and says, hey, I've been following you for a long time and interested, how did you make the transformation to become an AI consultant? And you were in a similar role with me as me and as a VP of technology. That's a great way to kind of open the door to the conversation. Makes sense? And then networking, whether it's on LinkedIn or in person, I strongly encourage going back out in person, whether you have a job or not. Keep networking. ABN instead of ABC, but it's always been networking is really important. So here's kind of and this is on your toolkit as well, but like just a short way of thinking about a plan that you can have is just understanding that you want to look at doing 5 warm intros every week. You want to make sure that you have 5 strategic DMs. So you're reaching out to targeted people that are in the industry or the roles or the companies that you're looking to go into. 5 coffees or virtual chats a week, and then 5 engaging posts. And if you're looking at the way to interact with people, this will get you a lot more conversations than just blind applying with your resume. But the resume is the core at which you have to back it up with. And so having that proof, and that's where we start with the resume. With them. And then next step, you got to start somewhere. So start by working through the cool toolkit, creating some of those key accomplishments, the outcome, the tools, everything that you use, put it all into one page. I'm not saying use it. Everybody always asks me, okay, I have a 16-page resume. What do I do? Or a CV. Well, don't let it be 16 pages, but have one version that kind of includes everything. And then you can sit there and say, okay, for pivoting to a new industry, this is the resume generally that I'll go off of. This is the one that I'm going to use to stay in the industry and change positions. But being able to have that ready to go, and then pivoting on LinkedIn and your presence on LinkedIn, and then connecting with people like me, to understand like how I can help you in any way, to whether it's connecting you with people, walking through your specific situation to understand who you are. Calica is a culture-first, AI-powered, human-driven organization. And we want to make sure that we're helping people whether they're looking for a role or a company that is needing help in growing their company. So if you'd like to submit your resume to Calica, I'm happy to help in any way I can. Can't guarantee that I will find you a job because that's not what recruiting firms do really. But I'm happy to help in any other way. So that's all I've got today. I wanted to leave time for some questions and any comments.
And just a quick plug, there is a QR code for feedback survey from Sidebar. And again, one of our main values is growth. We are very much about how can we be better, and let us know that. So what you thought about this session, what you thought about future speaker sessions, and any comments on how we can help make these sessions better for you, more valuable, and provide deeper levels of content and insights. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Whitney, for allowing me to step in. But again, highly encourage you to let us know how these sessions are going for you. And I'll also be including the link here in just 2 seconds. Looks like you've got another question, Whitney.
Yeah, I've got it up there. So that link is up there. And then the link to my LinkedIn as well and my contact info. The other thing that I wanted to encourage you all with is my CEO of Calica is tomorrow actually running a job search strategy. Goes into some of the things that I talked about, but mostly the kind of a signature strategy that we've always used, a 4-tier strategy that we've used throughout the years of recruiting help. And he's running a virtual webinar tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So I know it's early for you California folks, but really valuable, the words that he's saying. He's been in the industry for 25 plus years and has a lot of knowledge to drop. I don't know if this works. I guess it works. Yeah. This is a link to an article that he put out there, and you can either message me if you would like to be a part of that session tomorrow, or go to his post and DM him to get connected with the event.
Whitney, we also have Manju again.
Yes, come on.
In the networking slide that you had, maybe 2 of the 2 slides earlier.
That one?
Yeah. So this one. So here, this is just to understand about the warm intros, or some of the DM. It's very clear. So the warm intros, is this like a blastogram, or are you talking about one-on-one reaching out to folks to ask like that? So what's practical?
Yeah, so the warm intros are generally people that that you know already that can help to introduce you to other people. And so, hey, Manju, you've known me for 20 years. Who do you know in this industry that's, looking to do AI transformation that might be open to a conversation with me? Can you make an intro?
Mm.
And then the DMs obviously is directly to a person that's doing that work that you want to talk to.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Got it.
Any other questions, comments? I'm open to hear anything.
Eileen, thank you so much for sharing. It looks like your CEO, Keith Langbo. The LinkedIn post was shared by Eileen, so thank you so much for that.
Great. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And, if you know anybody else that needs a conversation like this, happy to have that conversation with anybody else as well, both individually and as a group. But hopefully we can connect on LinkedIn and continue conversations.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And here is the...
Aww. Yeah, this one, I don't think she's moved. Like, I was gonna come on and try to be funny and wear different hats throughout, but I couldn't really bring myself to to wearing this on camera for a long period of time. So thought I'd show it to you at the end. Wonderful.
Amazing. Does anybody else have one more question to ask based upon Whitney's expertise and insights?
For our younger, our children's generation, do you have any specific suggestions for them? It's so hard for them now coming out of college.
Two bits of nuggets that I will drop because we're dealing with that a little bit on our end. I think that some of these young kids need to manage their expectations for the types of jobs that they are going to get. We had a person turn down a role because he felt like they were undervaluing him. And he was like, but I have 2 years of experience. It's tons of experience. So managing those expectations. And he was also told that, well, I want $90,000 because I was told that I need to negotiate. And the hiring manager that's been doing this for 25 years was like, no, he's been doing it for 2 years. Like I do value the 2 years that he has, but he's worth $78,000. And he's like, I made $33,000 in my first job. And what are these kids thinking? But so I think that, but also teaching the kids these days to know how to translate some of the non-related experience that they have and value that experience. And put that in. I hate how much pressure there is for these teenagers, especially not even in college, but in high school even, to have internships. Go be a kid. And I was a camp counselor. And you know what? It was hugely valuable to me. And I learned all my values and my leadership skills based on going here and doing that. And so you can learn a lot of things. And then guess what? Translate that knowledge in this key accomplishments section to really help these kids to show their value in an organization. Oh wow, you did that on your own. You started a nonprofit, group, and you raised food for the needy. Okay, great. Like that shows a lot more about a person than I went to a technology boot camp and I was able to complete it. That I would hire the will, not the skill as much. And so teaching kids these days that they need to still have experiences outside of the technical side of things in internships.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And yes, please connect with her. Please feel free to join that link on Keith Langbow's webinar since tomorrow. So Whitney, thank you so much. And everybody have an amazing Thursday and we'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone.